It's terrible. It's strange for me to hear these three names together, as they say in one sentence: Trump, Epstein, Obama. The Democrats have just posted on all websites and social networks the correspondence between journalist Michael Wolff and Jeffrey Epstein, a person you know, Epstein. Probably that's how it would sound in Russian. And they claim that Trump has been caught. And now for him, it will simply be impossible to wash off, wipe off, or scrape off, so to speak. That is, he's so stained that that's it. But there's a small problem, there's a small detail, which is quite difficult to deal with, but it means they will try to handle it.
However, soon after these emails were re-released, people noticed that the victim's name, which had been hidden, was actually there. Virginia Giuffre, who had already testified many years ago that Trump had never done anything wrong.
Virginia Giuffre has said several times that Trump never did anything, which would resemble an attempt at seduction, that he was always polite, attentive, and never crossed the so-called accepted boundaries of communication.
So the question becomes, why did the Democrats decide to hide the name of a person who has already testified that Trump never did anything wrong? Because they know Virginia Giuffre gave that testimony, hiding the victim's name keeps the victim's identity unknown. And this implies that Trump did something wrong. What exactly? They're trying to set up Donald Trump. Don't get me wrong, I still want the Epstein files released. I'm with Thomas Messi and Rohana. Go ahead, baby. I don't know why. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, or others claim nothing is happening, but haven't given us a convincing reason to believe it. So they messed it up. Let's see the Epstein files released, what they have, what they can release. I assume that most of it is already gone, and I don't necessarily trust all of this, but I'm not playing these games. That being said, the Democrats tried to frame Donald Trump and got caught the same day. And that's crazy.
Planning is the key to success in any endeavor, especially in battles and fights. I mean, improvisation is certainly allowed, but only at the tactical level. How can you take a building with a machine gun quickly and without losses? Or how is it better to neutralize the propaganda, well, of a specific agency, so to speak, of the enemy's mass media? But under no circumstances should you improvise or come up with new actions and projects on the fly, because you don't have the opportunity to check and think them through. People usually start to improvise when all the prepared measures, all the prepared means haven't worked, and then they start to panic. And more often than not, such improvisations fail. And as they say, it comes back to hit them like a boomerang.
Now, a bigger scandal, which in my opinion is shocking, is the evidence of collusion between a journalist and Jeffrey Epstein to smear Donald Trump, right? In 2018, the person who wrote this book attacking Donald Trump was giving advice to Jeffrey Epstein on how to respond to the press in order to portray Trump in a bad light. Now, what I really like about this is all these Democrats who are just like that. Jeffrey Epstein's word is law, right? Emails from a man who is a trafficker are certainly trustworthy, and they will take them at face value.
A journalist who's writing a book about how terrible Trump is gets advice from Epstein. And vice versa, he also gives advice to Epstein on how to do it better. So, you pull Epstein out, put him in a better position regarding Trump, how to make Trump owe him, how to slander better. Well, let me first, so to speak, tell you everything, and then you can draw your own conclusions. The whole idea is, of course, to throw more dirt, and maybe before they figure it out, it will stick.
Donald Trump was accused of being an informant on Jeffrey Epstein, although Speaker Johnson withdrew that statement. Donald Trump expelled Epstein from Mar-a-Lago years ago because he found out that he was around young girls and said, "I don't want that here." People ask why he didn't report it to law enforcement. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I'm not sure. So I'd like to see what they have, and it's time to get the full picture, the real picture. The Democrats are using the Jeffrey Epstein hoax to try to distract from their huge failures, especially their most recent shutdown. Now, I'll say it again, my friends. Release the Epstein files. What do they have? I fully support this. It needs to be done. Meanwhile, the Democrats are lying. Here's the image that was posted. Thanks to MJ Truth Ultra on X for this chart. From G-Max to G-Vacation, which apparently means Jeffrey Epstein. This is Jeffrey Epstein. He said, I want you to understand that the dog that didn't bark is Trump. The victim spent hours at my house with him. Neither the police nor you ever mentioned him. I'm 75% there. Oh my God. After that email, the press started messaging me asking, Tim, what do you think about this? I was just like, look, the right wants the Epstein files to be released, and hardcore Trump supporters are saying, we want results, we don't care about that. But here's the best part. The Democrats hid the victim's name. What? The goal here was for you not to know who the victim was and not to be able to find out what they were talking about. Because here is the real email. I want you to understand that the dog that didn't bark is Trump. Virginia spent hours in my house with him. He wasn't mentioned even once. Oh my God. The reason why this is so disturbing? Well, Virginia Giuffre has already testified that Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong. I'm here for that. No, I have crisis scenes. We'll get back to that in a second. Giuffre has already said it. Let's go. MJ Truth Ultra claims Democrats hid Virginia, as revealing the name would have fully exonerated him. Rob Schmidt. This shows how twisted the Democrats and the media are. They hid the victim's name because they knew that revealing it would destroy their narrative. They hid the name Virginia Giuffre because in her testimony and memoirs she stated that Donald Trump never did anything wrong and was a perfect gentleman.
This is the main news, and she claims something absolutely terrible, that Trump spent hours at her house. And that's all because they just want you to see this headline. Trump spent hours with the victim. But what comes to your mind when you think about this headline? Yes, that's exactly what they want, which is the problem and shows how disgusting they are. They hid the alleged victim's name for a reason. The name would ruin their entire story. So they hide that part. Republicans promptly revealed the name. Virginia Giuffre is a young woman who, in her testimony and in the book she wrote, said that Donald Trump never did anything wrong and was a perfect gentleman. They've been hiding this all along, and now all your experts in the media are just claiming, oh, this is irrefutable evidence. See, he's a pedophile. That's how sick and twisted these people are. They're disgusting creatures.
And
Now to the real scandal. As I said before, you shouldn't watch the right hand, but the left.
Doctor of Medicine says, oh God, I just realized something. The real scandal in these emails isn't about Trump and Epstein, but that Michael Wolff, a leading journalist, is instructing a convicted sex offender on how to manipulate a presidential candidate for personal and political gain. This is actually very serious. Take, for example, Wolff's book Fire, Fury by Asad Levine, which made him millions off Trump's presidency. We now know Wolff advised Epstein during the campaign. Every explosive claim in the books is now in question because of the conflict of interest. Why is no one talking about this? Why did the journalist coach a pedophile? Because
Hatred overwhelms. And there was never any morality to begin with. Morality is just words, or a word used to cover up hairy crotches. Money doesn't stink. Connections and relationships are more important than honor and conscience. Envy overwhelms, and there are no restraining traits in their character. Neither parents nor schools taught them any. And especially life itself, which showed the exact opposite. Sell as much as you want, as long as they pay a high price. And these disgusting creatures rummage through their disgusting excrement.
this is from 2015 from Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein, and we can see the chain. The first email that Wolff sent was, I heard that cable news network is planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or afterwards. Epstein replies, If we could prepare an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Wolf says, I think you should let him set himself up. If he says he wasn't on the plane or in the house, that will give you valuable public relations and political currency. You can set him up in a way that could potentially bring you a positive benefit. Or if it really looks like he might win, you can save him, creating a debt. Of course, it's possible that when he's asked, he'll say that Giuffre is a great guy and he was treated unfairly, and he's a victim of polypolitical correctness, which will be banned under the Trump regime. It wasn't Michael Wolff saying, burn him to the ground. It was him saying, here's how you can maximize the benefit to protect yourself. It was Michael Wolff saying, you could, if you could, save Trump and put him in your debt. A man was telling Jeffrey Epstein how to save himself. Why? In 2015, according to these emails, if they're true, Michael Wolff, who wrote that book discrediting Trump, was giving advice to Jeffrey Epstein on how to benefit himself, even if it meant saving Trump. So it wasn't an anti-Trump stance, it was a pro-Epstein stance. Which is very strange for this person who later wrote that book about Trump and reportedly made a lot of money from it. The Democrats are trying to frame Trump. We can see that this story is interesting. 2 months ago, Mike Johnson claimed that Trump was an informant against Epstein, then backed down under pressure from criticism. The Speaker of the House claimed the president worked with the FBI to take down Epstein, but later retracted the statement. I think that could really be the case, or it's a possibility. Speaker Johnson knows something we don't, and he was asked about it, and he said that Trump was an informant for the FBI. Maybe the reason Trump doesn't want to release the Epstein files is because it would expose him as a snitch. Not just on Epstein, but on a lot of other things too. I think that's very likely. And it's funny, I mentioned this some time ago, and these liberals are like that. Tim believes Trump was secretly a hero with the FBI. And I'm telling all of you, if it turns out that Trump was an informant for the FBI on a bunch of other well-known influential people, that's going to be a dagger ready for him. He'll lose donors, they'll turn against him. So yeah, he wants to cover it up like I'm defending Trump, but that's because they want the story to be that Trump is a pedophile. And I'm like, maybe, but probably not. I mean, I feel like if they really had that kind of evidence, they would have published it, they wouldn't be doing these silly schemes. And I think there's a chance, I don't know, maybe 10% or 1%. Johnson shouldn't have said what he said. Later, he took his words back. Maybe he actually knew behind the scenes that the FBI was asking Trump about Epstein. He snitched on him. And the FBI said, what about the other guys? And Trump was like, I'll give you everything. Imagine if Trump actually planted bugs at Mar-a-Lago. He records meetings with influential people and sends them to the feds.
A fantasy, like many others, that was born because Trump, for some reason, keeps Epstein's files without making them available to journalists and the public. By the way, I don't actually know, so to speak, what he has or doesn't have, whether he really has it or not. Do some judges really prohibit something like that? I'm completely confused about this now. But I know that someone is blocking it. Someone, well, I don't know, maybe the president, most likely, yes, someone is not letting this information get through. But more often, it's better to show even something negative than to let the imagination run wild. Well, we are Democrats. They're trying to distract our attention, not from something else, not the shutdown. Or maybe from something we didn't want us to notice in those Epstein files, or something that's going on around those files.
How's it going, guys? This is Penny. We all know that Barack Obama has a very strange, secret personal life. And we've seen this, obviously, in his own manuscripts, where Obama says that he makes love to men in his imagination every day. He wrote this to his girlfriend. It's strange. Barack Obama says he continues the endless farce of earthly life by distancing himself from reality. You see, I make love to men every day in my imagination. My mind is androgynous. I see that I was made a man, and physically in life I choose to accept this accident. Barack Obama is trans, I don't even understand. He was 21 years old when he wrote this in 1982 to his girlfriend, who published the letter and released it in Barack Obama's own handwriting. No one ever disputed or challenged the authenticity of this letter, and it's very, very strange. It's very, very strange.
Do you know many men who at night currently fantasize about sex with men, imagining many different men? I've never really heard of that. Maybe they just never shared it with me. Just never. Or maybe it's normal and common in some, maybe certain circles. Well, somehow, not in mine.
Barack Obama then married Michelle, and they had children. And then they immediately sent those children to Harvey Weinstein. It's true. Nothing shocks me anymore. Barack Obama is criticized for sending his daughters to work for Harvey Weinstein to make a career in Hollywood. Because that's what you want for your young innocent girls, right? Is that the kind of mentor you're looking for in this situation? I mean, they're so grateful to Harvey. They literally thanked him.
All right, after thanking
Harvey Weinstein for organizing this
Edition.
This is possible thanks to Harvey A. He is wonderful.
Man, a good one.
A friend and simply a powerful figure. And that's it. I love when Whoopi Goldberg sits behind Michelle. They're just mwah. I love her. They sent their teenage daughters to work for Harvey Weinstein.
the 72-year-old received
A 23-year prison sentence found guilty in 2020 of first-degree sexual assault and rape. In 2017, Malia Obama, the eldest daughter of Barack Obama, interned with Harvey Weinstein. Shortly after that, he was accused of sexual harassment. All right. In general, they have some strange, creepy connections, and the Obamas clearly seem to be people without any moral backbone or clarity. And that's why it's not surprising that they're now involved in the Jeffrey Epstein saga, as the Democrats are releasing Jeffrey Epstein's emails to Obama's chief lawyer saying, "You need to talk to the boss."
Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, Sean Combs, well, known as Diddy, all had direct access to the boss. So what was the boss's name? The boss's name was Barack Hussein Obama.
That's 10% for the big guy. We're going to have a situation with the big guy. Things are getting interesting. Jeffrey Epstein, Catherine Rumler, talk to your boss. Who is it? Katie Rumler, Barack Hussein Obama. Oh, all right, that's a fact. Here's from the Politico article. Yeah, we're not just gonna listen to tweets. No, let's listen to Politico. And the Obama administration also repeatedly appeared in Epstein's mailbox, former White House advisor Catherine Rumler. In 2019, correspondent Rumler, who was then a partner at a law firm, discussed criminal cases against Trump and so on with Jeffrey Epstein. In a separate correspondence, Rumler expressed contempt for the residents of New York and New Jersey and was planning a road trip. "I think I'll drive. I'll stop to pee and get gas at a rest stop on the New Jersey Turnpike, and I'll watch all the people there who weigh at least 100 pounds more than normal, and I'll have a mild panic attack. And as a result of watching, I'll decide that I won't eat a single bite of food for the rest of my life out of fear that I'll become like those people." Oh, Obama's lawyer is shaming someone for being overweight? Oh no. Catherine Rumler was White House counsel under Barack Obama. So, Catherine was the counsel, yikes, for Barack Obama. And let's read it, shall we? This is the little email that's getting all the attention. Here, where is Jeffrey Epstein? You know, the takeaway here is that Jeffrey Epstein is saying, you need to talk to your boss. Many people assume it's Barack Obama. It's not specified, but that's the common assumption online. Again, she was the White House counsel, a former lawyer for Obama. And wow, a lot is coming out of these Epstein files. Okay, let's take a look. "It seems like you're not prioritizing your schedule very effectively," says Jeffrey Epstein here. Hey. It says here, this is GAON week, GAON week. What is GAON? Well, the General Assembly of the United Nations. Sorry, I'm not familiar with all these abbreviations that the cool guys use. So this is the General Assembly of the United Nations. So the boss will be in town too. That means Barack Obama, right? Right? This was in 2014 when Barack Obama was president and the United Nations General Assembly was in New York. So the boss will be in town. I'll be here all week. I just got on the train, so I can't talk freely. Okay, wow. So the boss will be in town. Barack Obama, the boss here, is supposed to be at the United Nations General Assembly. Yes, the president is addressing the United Nations General Assembly. That's how Jeffrey Epstein wrote, "Girls, be careful. I'm going to resume my old habit this week." Okay. Then he talks about PEEE, Till Sammers, Larry Sammers, Bill Burns, William Burns, the director of the CIA. He worked at the State Department under Barack Obama, but became the director of the CIA under Joe Biden.
A good selection of characters for a cigar party. Cuban cigars, of course, yes, expensive cognac, and plenty of easy women, at least easy. At first, the sentence started with the word girls. I want to resume what we were doing before. He's writing this to Obama's lawyer and also to a girl. So, which girls, what old habits to resume or what old things to bring back?
Lawyer Obama, Jeffrey Epstein, says most girls shouldn't worry about this and that he understands. It comes down to high risk reward, low risk, and professional, emotional, and financial rewards.
What girls shouldn't worry about. Naturally, the reward will be high. I understand. It all comes down to professional risks and finances. Well, I mean compensation. Finances, in my opinion. Compensation for the risks.
I agree, but I need to be ready to say yes before I talk to him. Who is he? You need to talk to your boss.
Epstein suggests talking to the boss. He'll be in New York for the assembly. A warm company of girls. And the lawyer writes, I want to be sure that I agree. Before I talk to the boss. To what then? Epstein replies to her, talk to the boss. Like, something like that. Don't worry, yeah. Is she bargaining? Say how much you'll pay and I'll call Barack, or maybe I'll bring Barack if I decide to serve him at your party.
This is Jeffrey Epstein trying to invite Barack Obama to his house. And he starts by asking the girl carefully, or should I go back to my old habit? Dude, this is a crazy letter. I mean, listen, we have to make some assumptions here, but I think it's safe to say that in 2014, the boss would have been Barack Obama speaking at the United Nations General Assembly. Right. I mean, that's Katie Rumler. That's Obama's lawyer. She was the White House counsel. You just would have to assume that, right? Yeah, right, yeah. So here she is writing about Billy Clinton. I stopped talking to Clinton when he swore to me with full conviction that he did something. He forgot that he had sworn to me the exact opposite before, just a few weeks ago. And she calls him a psychopath.
And she also has an interesting story with Clinton, so Bill to her is a psychopath. Well, I agree with that. Actually,
there's the news. Actually, Jesse Waters did a great breakdown of this on Fox. And Jesse Waters gave a really good, let's say, clear explanation of how many people in the Obama-Biden circle actually had contact with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of people talk about Clinton, and that's fair, and many talk about Trump, but the connection to Obama's world has never been established until now. Yes, the Democrats released it. Here's Jesse Waters' breakdown.
It's been 4 years since billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. So why do we still know nothing about him? Well, tonight we're going to get some answers. The Wall Street Journal obtained Jeffrey Epstein's personal calendar, which appeared even more suspicious than Brett Kavanaugh's. Epstein was meeting with people you would think would stay far away from a convicted pedophile. Jeffrey Epstein met with one of Barack Obama's top lawyers, Catherine Remler. She met with Epstein dozens of times, and Epstein even tried to get Obama's lawyer a job with Bill Gates. How did Jeffrey Epstein become a middleman between Obama's lawyer and Bill Gates? Epstein also met with Joe Biden's CIA director. At the time, he was not the CIA director, he was Barack Obama's Deputy Secretary of State. William Burns worked for John Kerry at the State Department and met with Jeffrey Epstein, a known pedophile, and then Burns became the CIA director. Today's CIA director went to Epstein's townhouse in Manhattan, where Epstein had sex with underage girls. And do you know where he filmed other men having sex with underage girls? And William Burns went there, and then he was promoted to CIA director. Now, I'm wondering if the future CIA director saw the portrait of Bill Clinton in a blue dress hanging in Epstein's living room. A few years later, Epstein was arrested and then hanged himself in his jail cell. Meanwhile, the cameras coincidentally weren't working, and the guards on duty also happened to fall asleep. And 2 years later, Biden just happens to choose William Burns to lead the CIA. So the official from Obama's State Department couldn't ask anyone else in the whole country for help with experience in finance. He could have called any chief executive officer, any hedge fund manager, any bank director, but he meets with Jeffrey Epstein, a man who doesn't even have a real business, a man who doesn't even have a website, a man who, as far as we know, had only one client, a chief executive officer. Victoria's Secret. It doesn't add up, Burnsy, and that explains the favorable deal in 2006. That explains the cover-up in the prison cell. And that explains why all of Epstein's records disappeared. Everything Epstein recorded, it's all gone. Every property he owned. But when he died, the feds seized all the records. And the only person who has been arrested since then was Madam Maxwell.
Jeffrey Epstein. He found me almost immediately. He knew exactly where I was, my location, and that's when I realized I was being watched. I was under surveillance 24/7. Cameras were all over the island.
So the CIA has all the sex tapes and they're blackmailing like crazy. That's a blackmail jackpot. Hours of footage featuring the world's most important people on Epstein's Island, at the townhouse in Manhattan, at the Palm Beach estate, at the New Mexico ranch. Bill Clinton was a good friend. Jeffrey flew on the Lolita Express 26 times, visited his private island. So, when someone does something that doesn't make sense, maybe it's because they don't want to do what they're doing. Maybe it's because someone is telling them what to do and threatening to release records if they don't comply. Who?
Someone has Epstein's videos, and that someone says so a bunch of people maybe need to. He spoke earlier to the CIA director or members of the Trump 45 cabinet or senators, members of Congress, judges. How to judge, how to decide, how to vote for something, for someone, whom to blame, whom to praise, for someone. Well, not for us. Not America, so that life would be better, more satisfying, and safer. That's easy. You can imagine it, right? Easy, gentlemen. Don't forget about the bell, which you really need to press. Right now, without leaving, you need to click on it. And in the description, there's a link to my book for free. It's Capitalism 101. I'll be replacing it with another book soon. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, go ahead and download it. Take a look. Maybe you'll like it. It could happen, right? What do you think? Maybe you'll like what I've written. That's it. That's all for now. We're saying goodbye. I think until tomorrow. See you.